Hey y'all, how's everybody doing? I hope you are doing well. Thank you for tuning in to Millennial Talk with Millie, or Millie's Millennial Talk. We trying to, what actually, that's a good question. What sounds better? Because right now, I don't know, but I'm trying to figure it out. Clearly, we out here in the sun, basking in this, what's it called? Vitamin C? What is it? Here we are basking in sun rays of glorious sun, okay, from the Lord. Now, ooh, Jesus, it's a little toasty. So look, this is gonna be a quick little video because I don't want to be on here talking forever, and I'm sure, even though I feel like I have so much to say because I literally have not been posting since like last November. Y'all, another thing, just a disclaimer before I get into this, look at my new notebook, y'all, too. I like it. It says, "I so totally got this." And that has been honestly really the theme of a lot of what I'm going to talk about in this particular video today. Now y'all, it is a lot going on around me. It's like a basketball court back here. So if you hear some noises, we are outside, okay? We are outside. Two, it seems like I'm squinting, it's because the sun is literally directly in my eye. It was the best lighting, so we're gonna go with it, okay? I have no idea what I look like, but that don't matter. Y'all just need to get this message, okay? So, where do I even start? Because like I was gonna say, so let me cut this camera off real quick. We got to save all camera life, Jesus. I can't even say the words right now. Okay, no, let me not say that. Okay, so where do I start? Because it's been a long time since I posted, and really almost it ain't a year just yet, but it's almost a year, okay? And baby, honestly, if I'm just gonna be completely transparent with everybody, this year has definitely been one of the hardest years. Oh Jesus, see quickly how things be trying to attack me. I rebuke it in Jesus' name, okay? Okay, so if I'm honest, y'all, this year has definitely been one of the hardest years, but also one of the most rewarding years in terms of like, just I feel like lessons that I have been learning throughout these months. I've been really in one. Okay, let me just talk about what I want to talk about, because I feel like, ooh, I feel like I have so much I want to discuss, so I need to, that's why I got my little handy dandy notebook so I can stay on topic. So the main thing I wanted to talk about was the topic of stepping out on faith, because I feel like this year has definitely been, that in itself, but I feel like I'm also stepping into a season of where that is of the utmost importance, okay? And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because in my solitude time, in the time of me, well, one, just a little life update a little bit, okay? Because I got to be honest, like, I feel like the past year of my life, I have felt like I've been in an episode of Abbott Elementary, okay? And what is happening? And okay, I hope I don't got lipstick on my teeth, y'all. Like I said, look, we just going with it because I just can't be worried about what I look like right now. Y'all, look, gonna have to listen to the message, okay? And, with being in that episode, if anybody ever watches Abbott Elementary, and I was late to the party because somebody was talking about how, like, when you've been kind of in the educational field, and even that, I feel like it's sectors, because I don't necessarily want to sit here and call myself a teacher, because when teachers have to be around these kids 24/7, that's a whole nother ball game. But I think having many students, and just seeing how the school system works in general, it's definitely been feeling like an episode of Abbott Elementary. So if you never watched Abbott, definitely go to watch it. I'm late to the party, but we here, okay? So I think for me, in going from a season of where I was primarily working from home to going back in the schools, there was a lot of things that I learned, not only about just society in general, whether it be from adults, whether it be from students, but also about myself, you know. And I think that that's why I want to have the conversation of stepping out on faith. And, you know, I feel like this topic can be something that, you know, some people will probably be like, okay, yeah, we know we need to have faith. This is a conversation that is had, right? But the actual action of doing it, I feel like oftentimes as people, we can stifle ourselves and stifle our growth because, you know, stepping out on faith, all of it is cool to talk about, but the actual doing process of actually getting out there, you know, and getting out of your comfort zone and really, you know, pursuing the things and the passions and the purpose that you are, one, passionate about, but, you know, the things that you want for your future, right? Those things are not always so black and white in a sense, you know? And so, you know, when it comes to me thinking about stepping out on faith, so I feel like for what I've been really, I think, digesting has been the fact that, like, ooh, Lord, it's getting hot out here. It's getting hot out here. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I feel like I have been running, in a sense, from doing the things that God has told me. And let me put another disclaimer. Look, I'm gonna be talking about a lot of stuff in relation to God, because I feel like that has been a lot of this journey as well, is just learning how to trust God, and also knowing that, you know, a lot of times, well, okay, let me say this, life is gonna be lifing in general, right? But some of the chaos that happens, I realize that when I am in a state of chaos, right, some of that is because I'm out of alignment with what God is wanting me to do in a particular season, in a particular time, right? And so I've noticed when I really am in tune with hearing his voice and hearing what he wants me to do, right, I feel like I have less pushback. Not to say that everything's gonna be, you know, peaches and cream, sunshine and rainbows 24/7, no, but it just, it goes a lot smoother. Like, even me coming to record, right, I have not been really wanting to be in front of a camera. I don't know what it is. I feel like, because I feel like sometimes when you get in a state of introspection, like, you can easily stay there and, like, not want to talk in general or talk to people. And, you know, that, look, I get distracted by these cars. And that's, you know, oh my God, Jesus, see, just as soon as I talk about distractions, what be happening, see, that's what I'm saying. I just don't, let me say this off jump, you know, we live in a world that is so, like, I feel like the conversation about spirituality is something that is had often, right? I feel like the conversation about, hold on, oh Jesus, help me, Lord. Okay, I feel like when it comes to, like, the conversation about spirituality, you know, we talk a lot about spiritual things, you know what I'm saying? But when people be dealing with real spiritual stuff that be happening, like people that's back in the Bible, Lord. But, you know, sometimes we think it's a coincidence, but it really do be some spiritual stuff happening. Like, the times, that's one thing I do not understand, is like, when people are going through certain things, the same way back in the Bible people was going through stuff, you know, people are not understanding that those same things are happening. And then when a person is dealing with that stuff, or if they're dealing with similar things that people in the Bible days had to deal with, then why are we acting like we can't deal with the same stuff? Number one. And two, when I say the Bible days, if y'all ain't looked outside and seen all of this foolishness happening, and then try to act like, you know, that because we can get into that topic. I don't even want to talk about that, about, you know, how people view the Bible, of how back in the day people, look, we know where the Bible originally came from, Africa, if we all the way 100, okay? And that's a whole nother conversation, which we already know a lot of this. I'm sure a lot of people know this. In Jesus' name, in Jesus' name. It's not a white man's religion, okay? I'm not gonna get into that in this particular video, but we'll talk about that one day, right? But Jesus. Okay, anyways, let me get through this because these bugs is acting. Okay, so in what I was talking about going through certain things that, you know, again, people in the Bible, when I say Bible days, I'm not saying it as if these still aren't the same type of times, because there's nothing new under the sun, right? Okay, but when you just look at some of the complexities in the Bible and what is happening in today's time, you know, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, people just, you know, they just predicted it. Well, if we're gonna say it's a certain person's religion, right, and if we know that certain people, you know, when you think about brain capacity and creating things, I really highly doubt that, you know, it's all of the stuff and all of the knowledge that I've gained from reading the word, you know, that definitely comes from above, because I don't think a human brain by itself could put together just some of the lessons in that, okay? So that's number one. One part of what I wanted to talk about underneath this topic of stepping out on faith is basically that, like, do not let people make you doubt what God has told you or what God has promised you, right? And the reason that I think this is super important to talk about is because I feel like, and I can only speak from my own personal experience, but I do see, you know, when people are having limiting beliefs or, you know, negative self-talk, or if a person, sometimes what I also realized, okay, so what I wanted to preface this by saying is, the reason I said that is because I feel like when I started making videos, now granted, like I said, you know, the past year has definitely felt like an episode of Abbott Elementary, so I wasn't even thinking about, you know, posting like that because it was just a lot happening, okay? But now that, you know, it's summer, I have been like, you know what, I really need to take this seriously, because I feel like, you know, I'm a firm believer that the things that you go through, you never know how your testimony or your story can reach other people, right? And so whenever I have thought about, you know, going back to me making videos and me making sure that I take it seriously, I feel like there is a level of course, taking responsibility for, well, let me say this, okay. Within the past year, you know, there were times where I felt like, okay, because I don't want this to seem like I'm explaining, this is, again, I don't want this to seem, you know, long-winded, because I could talk so much about, again, the whole entire year in itself, okay? But we're not gonna, I'm gonna have to break this in pieces, okay? So that's why I'm trying to make sure I make this, you know, condensed, okay? I learned a lot this year, and this is, okay, so I turned 31 this past May, right? So spending a whole entire year in my 30s, and also spending it off of social media, I think was really beneficial to me. Granted, you know, not saying I wouldn't pop in every now and again, you know, look on my timeline for a little bit, you know, but for the most part, I felt like I had to find ways to really, like, pour into myself during this time, because that's another part of this. I feel like, you know, I realized that I am a recovering people pleaser, and I am also somebody that, you know, while I value work-life home balance, I feel like sometimes especially as women, but especially as Black women, when we are naturally nurturing, we can oftentimes put ourselves to the back burner, and a lot of times we won't even talk about it. Sorry, making sure these bugs ain't trying to act up. Oftentimes we won't even talk about it, or even try to bring, a lot of times we won't even talk about it or talk about some of our challenges for multiple reasons that I don't want to get into right now. But it's like, I think trying to do a lot of unlearning, and I feel like I say this in a lot of videos, but it's be so true, okay? It be so true, because it's like, you really have to define you for you, define the things that are authentic to you, right? And I feel like that is part of the reason why there's so many people that are unhappy, or there's so many people that are dealing with mental health challenges nowadays, because we haven't taken the time to be still with ourselves. And I know that I say this a lot, but it's just really where I've been at, because it's like, again, I feel like when you really take that time to spend time with yourself, spend time with God, the rest will follow, you know? But if we are not in tune with that, and if we're too busy listening to the noise and listening to everybody's voice, right? That's part of what I wanted to talk about with the stepping out on faith part, and like taking things seriously that the Lord gives us when it comes to ideas, when it comes to our aspirations, right? And the reason being is because, you know, like I said, in trying to work on not being a people pleaser, you know, I realized in the past that, granted, there's areas that I have to take responsibility for myself, you know, so I'm definitely not right? not holding myself accountable in those areas, right? But I also realized that, like, I hate to say it like this, but it's really what it is. And I feel like a lot of people are more Jesus. I feel like a lot of people are more, what's the word I'm looking for, Lord? A lot of people are definitely, I feel like a lot of times a lot of people can be easily influenced and not even realizing that they are. And for me, like, that was a process I really had to break out of like worrying about just I know that this, I feel like I've said things similar in the past to this, but it's because it's so true. Like, I really feel like being able to rid yourself of other people's opinions, other people's own, because just thoughts about you, in a sense, because one, you know, a lot of times people will tell you to do certain things, and I'll use an example, okay? So whenever I first started making videos, right, and there was this particular project that I was working on, and the job I was working at the time, I had this coworker, and he was probably in his 60s, okay? Amazing man, right? He was amazing. But, you know, I remember I was telling him, because everybody at work would know me as Camille, right? You know, on here, my name's Millie, so you can use it interchangeably. But he would oftentimes, you know, he didn't know that my nickname was Millie, right? So I think one day I was telling him, like, about, you know, trying to make videos. He was asking me, you know, what they were about, what I wanted to, I guess, name, you know, I don't even want to call it a show, but that's, you know, again, he's in his 60s, so that's kind of what the terminology he used, right? And he was like, so when I told him at the time, I wanted it to be Millie Talks Truth TV, you know, which I'm, like I said at the beginning, I'm trying to figure out what I want to, you know, go with nowadays. But, sorry, I had to figure out what I wanted to go with, right? But, now, well, anyways, that's neither here nor there. So I would tell him, I was like, you know, it's Millie, like, M-I-L-L-I. So I remember him being like, why would you want to name your stuff that? Because Millie is an old people, well, he didn't say old people, but he was like, Millie's an old name. Or he was like, Millie's an old name, so why would you want to name your stuff that, da, 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 da. And so I'm like, you know, I really had realized that I internalized that for a long time. And granted, let me say this, because he also is very adamant about, you know, when we would have these conversations, just talking about like making sure that, you know, you thoroughly research things. And that is also, you know, a topic that I want to talk about with just social media in general, because with all of these recent, it's so much that I feel like I wanted to talk about. So if my words are kind of jumbled right now, I apologize, because I want to talk about a different array of topics, but I want to keep it condensed, like I said. But like, you know, whenever again, whenever I told him that I wanted to make videos and Millie was gonna be my name, he was like, it's an old name, whoop de whoop de whoop. I don't think he meant anything by it. Again, I internalized it, but he didn't mean anything by it, because that was just, you know, I had to look at it now later on and realize, okay, well, that was his time. Like, if that was what people were called back in the day and it was considered an old name, you know, then that's that. But when I think of Millie, right, I think of like a Millie, you know, a million, okay, because we claiming that in Jesus' name, okay. I'm a young money millionaire, okay. So we, look, that's what I be thinking about. But I had to realize that, you know, sometimes it's not even that people are trying to like down you, or that people are trying to talk against what it is that you have going on. Sometimes it's just the fact that like people have different backgrounds. We come from different, Jesus. People have different backgrounds. We come from different times. And instead of me internalizing that and saying, oh, well, you know, and saying, oh, well, I need to, you know, change my name because it sounds like an old name, you know, just recognizing like where that person was coming from. And so I've even had to apply this and, you know, just certain parts of like getting into social media, and like people just kind of discouraging me from making videos, or saying like, oh, you need a certain amount of followers, or you need a certain personality to do this or to do that, you know, or, you know, you can't try to get certain things until you get this, or whatever the case may be, you know. And I don't know, it's like I really just have had to like look at where that's coming from, and then also understand where that's coming from, and also understanding that, you know, everybody's gonna have their own opinion on what you should do, but only you know what's best for you. And I know that sounds cliche to say, but it's so true, because it's like, especially if God is giving you a vision about something, then he's gave it to you for a reason. He didn't give it to everybody else. So your brain may be thinking years ahead of something that is supposed to come into the fruition in the next couple of years, and the other person can't see it right now because they're, not to say that they can't see it, or that they're incapable of seeing it. But again, if God gave you the vision, he gave it to you for a reason, because it wasn't meant for them to see. You know what I'm saying? And so, and then just, you know, I'm learning to like, along with, you know, just not being fearful of making decisions, even making mistakes along the way, because you're gonna have challenges, you're gonna have things that happen. You know, when I think about, again, being a recovering people pleaser, there were times I would take things, and it's like, I guess because I looked at it as constructive criticism, I was like, well, let me try to figure out a way that I can incorporate this, right? But in actuality, if that person has, because, you know, it's one thing if a person has been successful in building what it is that you're trying to build, and even then you still have to take certain things into consideration, because the way that you're doing it and the way somebody else could be doing it could be two totally different ways and paths, right? That God may take you on. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. It's like sometimes, you know, people will take like a PowerPoint from 19 God knows when, you know, and try to be like, oh, I'm doing social media, or be in a particular position and trying to do social media while they also doing that position, which that's another conversation in itself, because just because we doing something don't mean that we always doing it well, you know, and quality is important, okay? So that's another part. But then, you know, my thing is too, if social media is so easy, I'm just trying to figure out why, you know, because people are like, oh, well, these influencers, they make this, they make that. Well, then if it's so easy, not to say, I think sometimes we equate easiness with availability, meaning if I can have time and flexibility in my schedule, so more so flexibility. So if I can have flexibility in my schedule, that means that something is easy, right? And that's not always the case. Now, not to say that, you know, social media is just the hardest job in the world. No, I'm not saying that. But at the same time, it can take time to put together content, to figure out, keep up with these trends, figure out, you know, what I even need to be on, you know. And I feel like, you know, we don't talk about these celebrities that, you know, while granted, because sometimes I feel like too, people equate a person having money or whatever the case may be is like, oh, they just have this easy life. Like, look at somebody like Cardi B. It can't be easy being in the spotlight, having people dox you, coming into your, or trying to come to your house, you know, just obsessed with your every move because people are weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, that can't always be easy either. So sometimes it's like we try to trade places with people or think that we know a person's journey, and we really have not a clue as to what it takes to walk their shoes. And my thing is, if social media, if creating content, if all this stuff is so easy, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, since they talk about how much influencers make, why everybody ain't making that. That's all I want to know, you know. But again, like I said, now I'm not saying that we out here performing heart surgery now, no. But at the end of the day, like, I think it's really just respecting people and working on, like, if you don't know, not, if you've never walked in a person's shoes, or if you have never tried to do a certain position or tried to do certain things in a particular field, right, then stop trying to always trying to tell people what the best move is if you have never walked down that road, right? Like, for example, I really get irritated, like, when people, like for example, TikTok is a prime example. There's people right now that be on lives making thousands of dollars, you know, Lord Jesus. There's people that be making thousands of dollars on TikTok. People will be like, oh, that's not a real job. Well, what do we consider? You know, how are we defining these things is what I be trying to figure out. That's all I be trying to figure out, you know? Or people will be like, oh, it's a kids app. Lets me know that you've never used the app before. So why are you trying to tell people not to do certain things? You know, I don't know. Like, it's just, it can be irritating at times. And so that's why I feel like sometimes I'm working on, you know, not being in hibernation, I guess you could say, you know. But at the same time, it's like I had to just really get clear on what it is that God wanted me to do in this season. And granted, this whole almost year that I hadn't posted, it actually feels like it kind of went by fast. And I guess that's, you know, when people say you get to your 30s, you know, time just starts rolling. I felt that, which is also why I feel like I had this revelation in a sense, because it's like, you know, I spent a lot of my 20s, you know, I guess holding myself back in a sense, because I was so I was so busy trying to listen and include everybody's thoughts and all of that, you know, into what I was doing. But in actuality, it's like, I think about the reason why I watch people, right? So I think about, you know, the times that I am on social media and the reason why I follow a person. A lot of times it is because it's like, okay, this person is authentically themselves. You know what I'm saying? There's something within my spirit that feels like I can relate to them. And, you know, some things, yes, are just for entertainment. I'm being mindful myself of, you know, just the type of things that I watch. You know, I'm not gonna get into that right now. But when I think about it, you know, and that's why I've had to do a little timeline cleanups as well, because I really thought about the reason why I follow people. And it's like, you know, it's something either about that person that inspires me. Maybe we have had a connection in the past, known each other, whatever the case. But that's also another piece to that, because I think too, what I want